he encourage Jack? Jessica.
He tells him he can take his choir boys and he can go out and hunt.
Correct. Jack just lost the election. Ralph's a very smart leader. He knows, on some level, probably not rationally, but he knows on some level, instinctually, that he could have a problem with Jack, because Jack's this other guy, pretty fearful. He's got some of the community behind him, and he's just lost an election. He makes a very wise move by saying, hey, you can take the choir boys, they can be the hunters, you're chief of the hunters. Very smart. How does he encourage Piggy in chapter 1? Let's see, the boys are about to explore the island, and Piggy is not selected to explore. Jack says rudely that he can stay behind because he's too fat. So how does Ralph encourage Piggy? Yeah, stay behind. In fact, not only stay behind, Piggy, but Piggy, I need you to stay behind because you're valuable to me to stay there and make a list of all the boys. Now Piggy feels like he's doing something productive. Jack feels like he's doing something productive. The little ones feel like they're doing something productive. Why? What are the little ones able to do? I'm sorry? They are gathering food, so they are brought into it. They're brought into it to work. That's true. But they're also given a voice. Even the little ones can have that conch. They are working, they are speaking, they are productive, and Ralph makes them feel like they are valuable members of that group. This is what leadership does. Leadership doesn't force, leadership leads. And if you think about that verb for a moment, to lead somebody means to encourage them to follow you, not to force them. A leader doesn't force, a leader encourages. And that's a strength. Okay, weakness? Ralph's weakness. Yes, Aaron. Oh, true. Leaders can't determine a direction. They don't know where to go. They have the power to move people there, but they're not quite sure where they're going. Who's telling Ralph what to do? Piggy. It's Piggy who comes up with the idea of blowing the conch. It's Piggy who decides that, or who suggests that the conch can be used to dispel chaos and give speaking choices. It's Piggy who advises about the shelters and the fire. It's Piggy who has all these suggestions, and Ralph's there listening to him, and then Ralph carries it out. Because Ralph has method, but he doesn't have vision. He doesn't have direction. He doesn't know where to go. He just knows how he can do that on some instinctual level. What other weakness does he have? Ralph fails at building shelters. Why? It's okay. Work it out. Oh, I think he has the drive because he stays there and does it the entire time. I think he has the drive. I think something else prevents him from being able to build those shelters. Sheila. Oh, but he's kind of figuring out. In fact, he says, Sheila, that the first shelter turned out to actually be pretty nice, and the subsequent shelters got worse. Why did they get worse? What happened throughout the day? That's okay. Allie.
Oh, he always wants people to help him, like he never does it by himself.
He doesn't do it by himself. So how is this a weakness? Dependent on what? Hmm. Come on, folks, let's get together and do this thing. I don't know, whatever this thing is. And you could be encouraging, and you could say, okay, you go over there and do that. You go over there and do that. You could encourage people to make them believe that this is a good idea. But you know what? If those people turn out to be lazy and figure out that they want to do it, they'd rather go watch TV. Nothing gets done. he can't actually do this on himself because his major method is organization of other people's talents. So if those other people aren't working, Ralph's lost. Depends upon the will of the people. And if any of you have ever led a group, you know how true this is. And you know how frustrating it is. How you could have the right idea and you could have a plan for accomplishing a task and you could just lay it out for everybody and they could just stare at you with blank looks and do nothing. It's kind of like half the periods of my day. Not you guys, honor students, but still. You could do everything possible. And if you're trying to organize a group and you've tried every amount of encouragement possible to make them do something, to help them see, and to encourage them to do it on their own, and they're not doing it, what do you resort to? Because nothing else is working. So you make them do it. As a teacher, you know what I would love to do? I would love to lead every student to knowledge. I'd love to encourage every student and empower every student to do something on their own for their own benefit. I'd love to shepherd them and be there as a mentor and a guide and help them understand things. But you know what? It's not realistic. Because just as Ralph could not build the shelters, it's not going to happen. So if you ever look at a teacher and say, man, you're just mean, chances are pretty good that they're doing that because they resorted to it after trying the nice way. And then just as those kids decide to go swimming instead of building shelters, that teacher was shown that, well, they would rather play video games or log on to Facebook than do the homework. You heard of schools that have kind of abolished grades? Yeah, there's some schools. There's some universities, there are some private schools that abolish grades because they think grades are just a measure of a measure of discipline, a measure of aggression. And they think that they want to run theirs purely on this, purely on leadership and encouragement. So they don't want the force of grades. They think that grades are an unnecessary deterrent to people feeling good about themselves and doing something. I always look at those experiments and think, really? Does that work? What do you think would happen if we got rid of grades and everybody passed class no matter what? Laurel?
I think that people would not try as hard.
Some people.
They would just pass. Well, if you're not getting a good grade for anything, what's the point of like doing your best? You just do it.
Exactly. And Laurel, I would answer that question in a very idealistic way by saying, what's the point of it? Because I would improve myself as a person, but you know, we all snicker at that, right? You're like, yeah, students are going to do that one, right? Mike?
Honestly, that they settle the grades, I probably wouldn't even try.
Yeah, why would you try if you're not earning anything, if you're not receiving any credit? And if I were to tell you, but guess what, Mike, at the end of the day, you'll come away a better writer. And you'll say, so? I don't care. I need grades on a transcript, man. I need that. I need that right there. I need some tangible goal. That's what the honor student would say. Other students in the school might say, if you're not going to punish me for low grades by refusing graduation, if my parents aren't going to punish me from low grades, there's no punishment, there's no threat, there's no reason for me to do anything. I'm not going to do it. So these kids stop building shelters. Golding has just told you something through Ralph about your society and the way people work. The allegory brings through an examination of human nature. And you know what? For me, I think a lot of it rings true. I think what he's saying sounds pretty obvious and pretty true about human nature. I think that Ralph's society would be awesome if it worked. I don't think it often does. If he could work together in equal parts, there's nothing they couldn't do. But unfortunately, that's okay. Unfortunately, at the end of chapter 4, you're already starting to see some division that will only grow worse. And then read on, And you'll find out about that worse.